Gamble House by Curtis Lindsay. On the Huntsville-Browns Ferry Road, where the cotton-laden plains east of Tanner meet the wooded marshland they call Dogwood Flats, a two-story farmhouse has stood sentry through every season for nearly 200 years. The Gamble House is one of the oldest brick homes in Alabama. A long, perfectly straight lane, edged by a few gnarled trees, rolls right up to the wide front porch, but there's nothing welcoming about the gesture. On an overcast winter afternoon, standing stark alone amidst that brown, windswept expanse, formidable is about right for the place. Here, the smell of dusty earth rises to greet you. The evening shadows seem longer than they ought to be. John Gerald Gamble and generations of his descendants have inhabited the farm for time out of mind. They're a friendly clan, proud to give you personal tours, whether to curious Limestone County residents or to pilgrims from other parts. Visitors don't come to admire the masonry, respectable as it is. Some may have heard about the Polly Malone Cemetery out back, hidden in the only copse of trees anywhere around where black farmhands and fishermen used to bury their kin. Everyone comes to hear the stories. That's what they're after, and the Gambles are happy to oblige. The lucky ones may be shown a glass transom pane that stubbornly cracks each time it is replaced, or an upstairs window in which an oil lantern sometimes flickers through the sunset hour, regardless of having been removed from the premises a century ago. A few, foolish enough to linger after dark, may hope to witness roving lights and lonesome, otherworldly chanting coming from the crumbling graveyard. Yes, there are as many tales about the Gamble House as there are creaky boards in its floors. They say that long ago, two men were fighting in the hallway when one was knocked on the floor with a gun. It accidentally discharged as he fell, killing the other guy. Upon exit, the bullet nicked the woodwork around a particular transom pane and shattered the glass. The Gambles grinned to recount the two eccentric, unmarried sisters who lived out their long, reclusive years upstairs. They lit a lamp in the window each evening, their only exchange with the outside world. Knickknacks are sometimes of a mind to noisily rearrange themselves at 4 a.m. A winter wind will whip through one closed door or another in August. And as they made their way up the staircase to bed, old John Gamble and his wife themselves, it is known, were from time to time brushed on the arm by the sleeve of an invisible houseguest who happened to be on the way down. She could at least ready the coals for us while she's at it, John used to joke. In the late 1920s, when Coolidge was president and the greatest thing was still sliced bread, a little girl named Margaret used to come from a nearby farm to spend the night. The Gambles were friends of the family, and the lore and lure of the place were irresistible to inquisitive children, of course. Every sleepover promised an adventure. Once, the whole house was awoken at midnight by the wild braying of panicked horses and mules out in the pasture. Through the back windows, a yellow-green fire could be seen blazing in the cemetery thicket. Sleepy eyes blinked in disbelief. The boys jumped into their shoes and rushed out into the dark to see what was the matter. "Ain't no fire out there," Mr. Gamble sighed, gently resting a hand on Margaret's shoulder. "Ain't never been any fire out there." "Tell them to calm the animals down and get back to sleep," he advised. "Early start tomorrow." His voice was reassuring enough, but his face looked uneasy as he shuffled off to bed. On another occasion, Margaret was roused from her sleep upstairs by the sound of feet scampering on the staircase with inhuman speed, up and down, over and over again. Pat, 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 pat. She sat bolt upright and threw off the covers. The footsteps ascended once more, then stopped abruptly. Margaret felt a sudden sharp chill, and then heard an awful noise, a rough ripping of cloth right there at the bedside, not 2 feet from her head. She fled for the bedroom door, but it slammed shut in her face as she approached. She fumbled with the knob for a moment, panting, now in tears, twisting and pulling to no avail. It was as if a hand were firmly resisting from the other side. Finally, she managed to get free and rushed downstairs with her own furious pitter-pat. "There, there," Mrs. Gamble said, catching her at the bottom in a tight embrace. "Now, my dear, there's nothing to cry about. A ghost is just a ghost, the silly thing. You may sleep in here with us tonight if you like." Eventually, the little girl stopped her quivering. She dozed off again, and then came eggs and biscuits in the sun-dappled morning. Just another day on the farm. But that was the last time Margaret ever slept over. It was only a few years ago that a small group of interested persons, a reporter and his photographer among them, decided to organize a seance. This was done with the bemused approval of Gerald Gamble, the kind, elderly guardian of the house in recent times. A psychic lady was brought over from Huntsville to conduct a table tilting. The principle is similar to that of a Ouija board, except that the spirits are encouraged to communicate by rattling the furniture. Folks gradually arrived to gather in the parlor as darkness descended over the cotton fields. The psychic and her witnesses crowded around the table, while Gerald watched, feet apart and arms folded, from a dim corner of the candlelit room. The ritual had scarcely begun when the table started to wobble and sway like a serpent under the spell of its charmer's music. It felt as though the air were being sucked from the house. Surveying the scene from all angles, the photographer scanned diligently for any artifice. Surely someone was manipulating the table with their feet, or by means of some hidden device. But he found nothing. The psychic's incantations grew more urgent, pleading with the ghost to make its grievance known. With that, the table rose a foot in the air, all four legs, before dropping to the floor with a declamatory thunk. It didn't move again. The seance ended in silence. "Did you see that?" Mr. Gerald asked the reporter, pulling him aside. "I could have told y'all that was going to happen." Chuckling, he bid his guests a good night as they nervously took their leave. Even the medium seemed shaken. "Y'all come back and see us," he called from the porch. Us. He closed up for the night, alone and yet without the house to himself exactly. What if the man shot on accident in the middle of a dispute over Lord knows what? Or those reclusive sisters? Do they inhabit the upper rooms still, unable to rest with intruders afoot? They say several Gamble children died awfully young over the generations. Might the farm be something of a spectral nursery? Well, folks have seen what they've seen. They know what they know. Beyond this, a fog of mystery lingers all around. If you find yourself driving on the Huntsville-Browns Ferry Road just after sunset, passing by the wooded marshland they call Dogwood Flats, you might slow down a touch to look for a long-gone oil lantern in an upstairs window. Provided the wind is out of the north, the breeze may bring you strains of eerie singing, sad and low, from the overgrown graveyard out back. Linger for a moment, but then, best to get on down the road where you're headed. Remember, friends, a ghost is just a ghost, the silly thing.